Okay, so now our model is done. The next step is the view. Now there are many different ways of creating the views. You can use the storyboards, you can create views dynamically, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it completely separate because I want to show you that how the view fits in into the MVC design pattern. So just as we have separated our model into a different file called question, I'm going to go to the views folder and going to add a brand new view and I'm going to call it a question view. So let's go ahead and add that file, a question view. It doesn't have to be called question view, but the last part, which is the suffix basically view, kind of illustrates or demonstrates that it is a view. Go ahead and import UIKit because we will be using some of the UIKit stuff. We'll create a class called question view, which will inherit from UI view. UI view is the base class of all the controls in iOS, so that's why we're inheriting from UI view. Now the question comes at what would be inside this particular question view. So the first thing we need to find out is that what will be the user interface for this question view. And this is a class. You can't really, well, you can, but we wanted to basically divide it further so that we can design our user interface in storyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new file, and that file will be called a user interface file called the view. Now this is the user interface or UI representation of my question view. So let's go ahead and add that. And what do you want to call it? Well, I want to call it as question view. Let's go ahead and add that and create that in the same folder. And you'll see that now you have the opportunity to design your view in terms of the user interface. The first thing you should do at this point is click on the file owner and let's see the properties. Go to the attributes inspector and you can see that right now the file owner is set up to the NS object. Let's go ahead and change that and call it question view because our question view class that we just created earlier will be the one controlling this particular view. So what else do we want in this particular view? Well, we can have some sort of a content view if you want that. So we can simply add a content view to our class and it will work fine. So let's go ahead and go to the question view and create an IB outlet. We're going to create a property, or you can actually create it in a different way. So if you go to the question view and you click on this guy over here to split or assist in editor, so now you can see both the screens at the same time. And if you do a control click and just drag it over here on your question view, you can see it allows you to create these properties. Now I can go ahead and call this property anything I want, so I'm going to just call it content view. Let's go ahead and add that. So we have our content view added. Let's go and see. There we go. The content view is basically just the content of the view. That's pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't really do anything else. Now, the other thing that we need to do is we need to add some sort of a label to our screen. So let's go ahead and add a label, IB outlet, var, and then you can say question text, label, UI label. This will be the text that will be displayed on the screen. Let's go back to our question view. And you can see that right now you don't really have any label, but you do have a content view. Let's go ahead and search for a label. Just drag and drop a label anywhere you like. Let's see, right over here is fine. Make sure that the label is nice. There we go. You can also go ahead and control some of the properties of the content view. So I can go ahead and change the background of the content view to some sort of a blue color. And I can click on the label and change it to white so it's appear much nicer. And go ahead and add some constraints to it. There we go. We can also right click on the file owner and you can see the content view is already connected, but our question text label is not. So let's go ahead and do that also. So now both of the things are connected. So now if I go my question view, you can see both the circles are filled over here. line number 14 and 15. You can see that. Great. Now we need to go ahead and implement the default initializer for our view. And one of those initializers is the init, which takes in the frame. I'm going to call super.init and passing in the frame. Great. Now I will go ahead and use the required initializer, which is init with decoder. And once again, I'm going to call the base initializer for that, passing in a decoder. Now, why do you need both of these initializers? Well, the first one is the default one. The first one basically is saying that if you want to create a view and by passing in the frame, so you can pass in any frame and it will create a view. The second one is going to get fired when you create a view using the designer, meaning if you have something called a question view as an IB outlet into your view controller, which we are going to see later on. Now, since both of these can fire independently of each other, we want to initialize our content view as well as other stuff related to the question view in a common initializer. So let's go ahead and create something called a common init. And we will call it over here also common init. Common init is our custom initializer that we're going to fire whenever the person either initializes it using the frame or initializes it using a decoder. So now let's go ahead and check out the implementation of the common init. We're going to start with the bundle. So bundle.main.load, and now we need to load the bundle, meaning we need to load the user interface file associated with this particular question view class. So what do you think is the name of that user interface file? Where have we designed the user interface for the question view? Look at the folder views. The user interface is defined inside a file called questionview.xib. So let's go ahead and type it out. Question view. You don't have to actually add the xib over here. Great. Owner is self, which is the question view itself, and we're not going to pass in any options, so that is good enough. All right. After this, we need to set the bounds of the content view. So content view dot frame equals to self.bounds, meaning the content view is going to fill up the complete question view. The content view is basically displaying all the content of the question view, so it's just going to fill it up. Finally, we are going to set the auto resizing mask on the content view. So content view dot auto resizing mask, that basically simply says that how the resizing is going to work for the content view. So we're going to just say flexible width as well as the flexible height. So inside the parent, the content view will have the flexible width and flexible height. That's pretty much it. That is our view, and we want to display this view into our controller. So we'll see that how we can actually do that by creating our controller in the next lecture.